Welcome, welcome, everybody. It's so great to have people on the call today. And what are we actually? I think we're actually on day 17 of the
Oh
Bound
wow.
Limit series. So it's been a journey, but guess what? It's been exciting having to talk about different things and have people on board for the spotlight session. And today is really, really exciting for me because I get to have not just my friend, also my brother, my buddy when it comes to the foreign exchange market. I want to say that it is such a pleasure to have you on the call today. So I want you guys to please help me, welcome Samuel Arokoye, right? We also know you as Sammy Math, right? Is that the right thing?
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I want to just do a quick introduction. What will fill me to kind of express all that Sammy embodies? That's the truth, because he's a bundle of joy, he's a bundle of knowledge, a foreign exchange trader, a business developer, and a technical analyst with a very strong background in many things: securities trading, financial and business growth. He also has proven expertise in building communities. He has a large community he's been working with for years now. He's great with strategic persuasion, has a demonstrated track record in developing successful investment strategies. So he's a great person when it comes to investment and also forging key partnerships. He's been training people for years. I think the first time I had contact with you was about 7 years ago. And I
Yeah.
realized that Sammy is great when it comes to breaking down the charts. He's an experienced trainer with a history of establishing and leading a thriving, financial academy. And I think the latest thing is added to his bag right now is this MSc in Finance and Investment from the University of South Wales,
Yeah.
underscoring his commitment to professional excellence and continuous growth. Sammy, I am really excited to have you join us today, and I want to say welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Funky. It's such an honor to have me here.
Wow.
And it's amazing to, get to connect again on, this kind of platform. I
Wow.
really will say I'm glad to be here.
I totally get it. And you know what? I'm also very thankful that you could even create that time, even to come join us, because I know that you were trying to work on your schedule, but it just seemed like it was a big hassle to get that done. But you know what? I think I would say that better late than never. So I just want to make sure that people on Instagram can see us. So just give me a moment to ensure that
Okay.
we can still stream on Instagram, because it looks like people are also trying to, join us on Instagram. Let's see if it's going to
All right.
go through, and then I can go live with this one as well. But I think we're having issues with Instagram. So people will have to just do YouTube or Facebook, and that is fine. So I am just going to go ahead really quickly to ask you some of the questions that I've been itching to get answers to. So let's start with this. I know you've been trading for over 80 years. So can you just tell
Yeah.
us what initially drew you into the world of Forex and investing?
Okay. That's quite an interesting one. I would say I was actually drawn to forex and investing because of the autonomy it offered,
Okay.
and both financially and personally. And
Ah,
coming from a background of finance, I saw how markets moved, and I realized that with the right knowledge and discipline, you could create financial leverage. You could create such a great and a real financial leverage. It first started with curiosity, you know, just wanting to know what's this thing about, how does this thing work, how come a lot of people are making so much money from just sitting at home, just with their PC, their phones, how's that possible? So, in fact, years back, I used to always, while we're in secondary school, I'll say high school in, Nigeria, there were times I'll, just be in the class and I'll ask, some of my classmates, I I didn't know things that are possible that you could do, from just sitting at home, and you could also get paid thousands. And I remember one of my colleagues then, he just said, I don't think that's possible. That's going to be stealing. He said that's going to be stealing. Just, having, just being at home, and then, money is just coming to you like that without, necessarily doing so much. Because all we knew at that time was, you have to earn it, you have to work hard, you have to go out, go through, all the processes of, being in the office space, waking very early, trying to get, to work, come back home, all of that, doing all that hassle for 30 days, and then, you get paid. That was what was common. And
Awesome.
you
Yeah.
know, and while just being in class in the classroom, then I'll just sit down and I'll ask myself, say, there should be something possible. It was just always a thought as a young, person, but little did I know that I was going to, find myself, in this space. So it all started with curiosity, then turned into passion, and when I saw that, the potential to grow wealth was really high, I decided to, push it, and then, go into it fully. And, that's basically how,
How you got
I
into it.
got drawn into, Forex.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like you said, a lot of people thinking that, some people actually have very weird impression about Forex. Once they hear, they think everything is a scam. They just think, you're gonna lose money and stuff like that, right? They don't know that there is a skill that you have to acquire to be profitable on the charts. And
Mhm.
a lot of people think that trading is risky and it's only for those that are lucky. So I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, what is the biggest myth about trading you'd like to debunk? People have different several myths about it, but I just wanted to ask you, what is the biggest one?
I think what is common, and what I've even seen in recent times from those, I'll in quotes call skilled traders,
Mhm.
or let me say traders whose resolve have the ability to influence, the younger generation. I've seen them say these things, and I have also, from my own end, disagreed with it because, from knowledge and experience in the last few years, being in this part of the world, I've seen how, you know, that is not true. And to just cut the story short, the biggest myth for me is when I hear that trading is gambling. Yeah, yeah. For anybody who says that, I just feel like you don't have enough and
You have the
sufficient
knowledge.
knowledge to
Yeah.
be able to,
Mm-hmm.
So I heard someone say that recently. No want to mention names, for at the moment I always, I respected that person so much with every passion in me. It's not like I don't respect him again, but when he said that, I was like, no, I don't agree with this. But we're all entitled to what we believe. But I think for me is, saying trading is gambling.
Yes.
It's not. I think professional trading is about risk management,
Yeah.
and risk management strategy and discipline,
Mhm.
because even though the markets are uncertain, you can, and what I mean by uncertain, you you can't really say how the movements would happen, because it's not static, but you can actually from enough data and knowledge and information know that price is going to move from a certain, um, you know, price level to another level. You
Mhm.
can actually tell, but the activities that happen in between is what actually brings about the uncertainty. But that price is going to get to that point from where it is very, very certain. So, um, trading is not luck, even though it's uncertain, we still make informed decisions. We have strategies, we have risk management. When you're when you're gambling, you don't need any of that.
Hmm.
You don't need any of that, when you're gambling. You close your eyes and just pick one at random without having any informed knowledge necessarily. So I think you know, trading for me is not gambling. We make informed decisions, based on probabilities and data, So I think for me, that's one myth I'm going to, debunk at every point in time. Yeah.
I, I think that is awesome. I like the fact that you said it is based on data. This is not just some because some people actually gamble. Have you ever seen people that go on their MetaTrader 4 or 5 on their phone and they just think their price is going one way and they put in a trade? They've not done any analysis. They are just
Mhm.
moved by price action or just moved by where they think the candlesticks are heading and they think that they should, just jump into the moving train. Jump into the moving train without doing any kind of analysis. So you're absolutely right when you say that we have to use data. It comes with skills, strategies to become, profitable here. So what is one key mindset shift that helped you to go from beginner to being consistently profitable in the market? Because I'll tell you the truth, there's definitely been a huge shift from what you were doing 8 years ago, compared to now. I remember those times we were going to stay up late and we were trying to do USD JPY.
Oh my goodness.
You are the one who made me like USD JPY, right? You say, well,
Yeah.
8 years ago, like, okay, probably like
Yeah.
7.5 years ago or so. And then I remember when I was even expecting my second son, we would be talking about trading, and I'll say, and you say, you are still up at night. I said, yeah, I need to make this money, right? So, what was that mindset shift that helped you move from just being a beginner to being a pro? Because you are a pro trader right now. You've been through it all. You've been through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, what was that key mindset shift that you had?
Okay. I'll say very importantly, one of those key mindsets where or is understanding that losses are part of the game,
Absolutely.
or losses is part of the making process.
Hmm.
The moment I stopped, being scared, of making losses, and starting to understand that I could manage them smartly, by cutting losses early, by also managing my risk, you know and being able to manage my timing and execution. I think everything changed. I focused on executing trades that were, I'll call A plus setups. A plus setups. They are. I believe based of the kind of systems we trade, um, you have your A plus setup.
Hmm.
I also have my A plus setup. So I there are setups that you just without without thinking, you could just tell that this is going to play out, and it plays out. It plays out. So they are just setups that you're so confident about that you're very for sure. You're so certain that it's going to play out the way you want it to. So I think for me, understanding that losses are part of the game, and then getting to the point where I stopped, being scared of losses, and then starting to manage risks smartly. Everything changed. I understood that it's a game of probability. So I stopped beating myself for perfection,
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
because a lot of times, some of the times that I've really beaten myself hard is when I felt like, why do I keep making the same mistakes? Why do I keep making the same mistake? And then I understood that um, it's a game of probability.
Hmm.
You can't always be perfect. You can It's not a game to be perfect. It doesn't require your perfection to make profit. It's a game of being smart. It's a game of understanding how to manage risk. you know. And when I started to think about the market as probability and not from from me having to get it all right at every time. All of those things change. So the mindset shift from um, probability from perfection to probability was truly a game changer for me.
And that's awesome. I think I like what you said. You did not focus on being perfect. It was just more about, I think it's just sometimes looking at those consistent wins over
So
being perfect. And then you have a big win, and then the next one would be a loss just because there is a mindset imbalance. You get what I mean? Like I remember
exactly.
when I started trading initially, I would say to myself, oh, I'll take trades. And then if I had a loss, it will affect my psychology and I will not even want to touch the charts. I had that kind of
Exactly.
mindset. But I told myself, listen, it's about risk management, managing
Hmm.
my risk. I think the major anthem for me was protect your capital. Protect your
Hmm.
capital. That's exactly
Hmm.
the mindset that I had. And I
Hmm.
was more interested in being overall profitable in a month. You get my point? Like if you have a
Hmm.
good strategy that even allows you to make like 70 to 80% wins in a month,
Hmm.
overall you are profitable.
Yeah, you are. You
That's the
are.
thing. It
That's
depends
more
on,
than
yeah,
enough.
yes. It depends on
That's
your
already
account
a big
size
deal.
and then the lot size that you are using. Because I think the problem is trying to trade $100 into $5,000 in a week. That is where
Hmm.
that's what I tell people.
Exactly. The
You
whole
know,
trying to flip account.
keeping accounts. And then I also think it's good to understand the instrument you are trading. You are already used to setting pairs. So let's talk about those pairs. So
Hmm.
what is your favorite pair? Or do you still have a range of pairs that are your best ones?
Okay, I think at the moment, I'm starting to um, learn a bit more about US 30 on
Okay.
NASDAQ.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason being is because you could trade it at specific times. It doesn't you majorly it's an American market, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're aware of that. So so it tends to move usually during the New York session.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to look based on my schedules and time and everything. I'm starting to see that it's very important to be able to um, leverage on those kinds of markets because they have specific times they can move. So based on my own past personal schedules and activities, I'm trying to see how I could leverage on that, at the moment. So I've been looking at it, for quite some time now, but before now, it has still been my USDJ
The
Koala.
UJ. UJ baby.
Yeah, it just has it just has a soft spot,
You know the funny
so
part. Everybody has
yeah,
a soft spot. When it comes to forex, I still love my
yeah,
G. I'm still a
yeah.
GU fan. Anytime, any day. I just have that.
Hmm.
There was a time I was doing gold a lot. I remember at the beginning, that was before Brexit, and it was great. I earned a lot
Hmm.
of money in gold. But when the news came, I just said, you know what, just stay somewhere. Let me focus on my GU baby. So I think the problem that most traders have is trying to trade everything.
Hmm.
It's really hard.
True. True.
I believe that there is some uniqueness when it comes to the behavior of certain pairs. Every
Hmm.
pair is not going to behave alike, and people need to
True.
understand that.
Absolutely.
I still love my volatility indices. I
Hmm.
still trade that. I know with you, you're like, this is your volatility. I know you trade it, but then you're still like, I like my forex because you still understand the structure a lot more.
Exactly.
So I think it's about finding your niche and then of course,
Hmm.
finding that balance, what works for you. So and that takes me to the
Very,
next,
very
question.
true.
So how does somebody know if trading is the right skill for them? Are there certain traits or habits that will signal potentials for being successful in trading? Because I still don't think it's a career for everybody.
Hmm. Yes, you're right. So the first thing I'll say is your risk appetite.
Mhm.
In fact, that cancels it. That's like the first litmus test. that I give anybody. So when people come to me and say, "Hey, bro, I want to learn forex. I want to know about this thing," usually just playfully, I just throw it at them and I say, talking to Nigerians now, I just say, "Can you can you afford to lose 1 million naira overnight?" And
Ah,
you hear them saying, you hear them saying, "Eh, how is that possible? No, 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 I can't." That's just like, me just playing around and, trying to just test, what their risk, appetite is like. So for someone who is really, really, smart and, wants to really understand what it's really about, he would say something like, okay, what exactly am I getting out of that?
mhm.
So that's someone who, he's not scared at all. He wants to first know what the outcome will be. So if I'm going to risk, 1 million, you know, and even though I can afford to lose it, what exactly is going to be the outcome? If I'm risking this thing, am I going to make 10 million? So when you see the other side of it, you can say, okay, I don't mind, even if I lose all this money, you
Exactly.
know, I at least it's worth risking it,
He's
so
working
that's
with
how
X.
I exactly. So I just, that's how I test, random people. So I just throw that question to them, like, okay, can you do this overnight? Can you afford to lose this overnight? And
Mm-hmm.
then still sleep well,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So I think that would be my first, test, because just like you said, you believe it's not for everyone. So for me, I think that would be the first test. Then I think also for someone who naturally is patient, I think trading is for you. If
Yes.
you're naturally patient, because it's not a skill set that requires someone who is always agitated,
Mm-hmm.
anxious. You need to be patient, because I've had times where I've asked my mentor questions years ago, and he'll say, "Sammy, this is how it is, this is how it is, when the candle closes, when the candle does this." And I'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah." He said, "Just give yourself time. You understand what?" And sometimes, in reality and truthfulness, I really understood what he said maybe after a year.
Exactly.
But when he was saying it, I'm like, I want to understand this market. I want to know I know, want to know this. I want to know that. And he will be like, he will explain it. But it almost feel like, okay, I understood it. But the realness and the real understanding will later come, maybe in a year,
Exactly.
and, so I
People
think
have to
patience
go through
is
the
where it's at.
process. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
So,
process. It's not a fly by night success, because even if somebody teaches you a strategy, there are
yeah.
things that are better experienced than
Mm.
just said.
Exactly. You just said it all. Better
Better
experience.
experienced, you know,
Exactly.
that's what
You
people
know.
need to understand. So then
Yeah.
you have a background in financial analysis and business now. So how
Mm.
do those skills show up in your trading decisions today? Is there a difference in how you are managing your risk now, knowing that you've gotten your MSc, and you have this investment degree and all that? So because so that people will get to know that they don't. It's not as if they have to go get all those degrees to become proficient in trading. But tell
Yeah.
me, how has this kind of helped you in your trading decisions today compared to before?
Mm. Um, Basically, they have actually helped me to look at the market condition with a wider lens.
Mhm.
I can actually see the market from a wider perspective. So, financial analysis actually taught me how to interpret, macro and microeconomic data, and business growth generally has helped me to be able to think long term. It's so I can look at the market and know that it's not just about one trade. Years ago, like you said earlier, you take one trade and you won't want to open your laptop, you won't want to touch the charts anymore, because you're like, oh, that perfection, and all of that. So financial analysis has actually taught me how to understand, macroeconomic data, and business growth has actually taught me how to think long term. I now understand that it's not about one trade; it's about a sustainable edge over time. So you have to have that edge. You have to have built that edge, that is sustainable over a long period of time. So every now and then, when I'm looking at the chart, when I'm looking at the market, I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking long term. What I understand, is it going to still be applicable in the next 10 years? Is it still going to be applicable in the next 15 years?
Mhm.
Which is why at the end of the day, understanding the macroeconomic part, understanding all of this data, likes of interest rates, inflation
Absolutely.
rate, all of these things are very important. They give you a wider scope of seeing the market, and also, from a business growth standpoint, you can now think that, okay, this thing has to be long term. It's
Exactly.
not just about just taking trades straight.
Mhm.
It has to be long term. What are we seeing in the next 10 years? What are we seeing in the next, 20 years? So that has actually, broadened my scope. So regardless of your background, if you have this if you have this mindset, I think it's still going to, enable you to be able to achieve certain levels of results.
Yeah.
So, it's about a sustainable edge over a long period of time.
Absolutely.
You
And I
know.
think that is great also from a standpoint of, particularly when you are trading um, the foreign exchange market itself, like trading forex pairs, you know that you have to pay attention to news, not even with what has been going on with
Mhm.
tariffs and different stuff. You definitely need to pay
Exactly.
attention to that.
True.
That is why I
True.
like my volatility in this is because I don't have to bother about that.
It
But
saves
I
you
was
all the.
yes, like it's just more like my trend. But then I was
Mm.
gonna ask you, your style of trading, are you still are you doing intraday trading or you are swinging? What is it looking like for you now? Because I know you had a busy schedule while doing your masters. And so I was wondering
Mhm.
how were you able to manage that with your trading schedule? Because some people will tell you, I'm too busy to do this trading thing. But then you did your masters, you were working, doing stuff. So how did you manage it?
Okay. So basically, during this period of time,
Yes.
I was leaning towards automation.
Mm-hmm.
So I do manual trading, and it was for specific seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that the market cycle changes.
Yes.
So when I come and I look at the market, I know I don't have enough attention and focus to look at the chart all day like I would usually have. But because I understand market cycle, I could tell that, it was getting closer to change. So those were the kind of trades I was looking forward to. So every now and then I open my chart, I look, what am I expecting? I'm expecting a massive swing up, swing to
Mm-hmm.
the upside. So all I need to be able to do is to be able to catch the timing. So I wasn't trading like intraday, I wasn't swinging. I was just waiting for specific market cycles and then trade, make some good amount of money and I let it go. So sometimes, within this period, I know there was a time I even traded December. I made quite a lot of money. And then I didn't trade again until towards the end of March because I was seeing another cycle, happening, every quarter, Q1, Q2, all of that. So I was timing those moments where I know that major reversals, major turns were going to happen. So that was when I know that, okay, it was also aligning with, some of my, free hours or, times where I was free, with my program as well. So those are the kind of times I was, leveraging on those, market cycles, and it really, really like was good, until now. So now I'm, more of intraday and swinging as well. So,
That's good.
but that's basically it. Yeah.
So, in a world that is full of side hustles, why do you think someone should consider learning how to trade as a serious stream of income? Everybody
Um,
knows
so,
extra hustles, right? So, why should someone consider that?
I think that's a very that's a very interesting question. I think generally when it is done right, yes, I think when trading is done right, it offers time, offers you time and freedom, and as well as location, compared to all the side hustles that you don't want to have. You're not tied to specific kinds of clients, you're not tied to specific kinds of marketing. It's skill based, and when developed, it's you investing yourself, regardless of the time, the location you're in. You're not tied to the expectation of someone wanting to pay you, and you're hoping, the person doesn't disappoint. It's you, your laptop, your skill. So it's skill based, and if that skill is well mastered and furnished, it compounds. You can just scale up. I don't want to mention name now, but I know a trader who has done the millions, millions, and millions, and he has done it so much that he's back down. You know, he's back again, like building people from the scratch. What he started 10 years ago. Raising mentors, raising students. Building community. When he did that for 5 years, he stopped. He
Mm-hmm.
made a lot of money, got into making of millions, and then he stopped again. And then now he's picking back, training people afresh, like he just started, his business and stuff. So he was saying, the first 5 years of his training was, he was passionate, going all out, teaching,
Mm-hmm.
traveling from nation to nation, building mastery, gaining community and stuff. And when pandemic came, he stopped all of that. And
Yeah.
then he just thought, let me reflect, let me do stuff for myself. And the next 5 years, 2020 to 2025, he's been building, restructuring, staying, going with family, all of these things. And, now it's 2025, he's starting again, like, raising people, raising a team and all of that. And the interesting part, why I brought his story up is because he's literally just funding 1K, 2K, and life, just like we're talking, he's flipping it to 5K,
Yeah.
to 50K, to 100K. Like
Mm-hmm.
every day, he's like, come on live for free. And let
Yes.
me show you. Like, I have a record of, all of these processes, like him doing it live. And, it's just interesting to see because all what he's just trying to say is that, once you have the skill, it compounds. And, when you get to the point where it now becomes second nature, it's no longer something you're scared of doing. You just understand that if this doesn't work out, the next one will play out,
Definitely.
and that's
It is.
the fact that it's scalable, is quite immense, so I think that's it.
That's it. There are so many skills. Like I believe that there are so many benefits to learning trading as a skill. Besides it just being a skill, I still believe that it is a skill that will pay you for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
For me, it feels like if you know how to trade, you become like a walking ATM machine.
Hmm.
In fact, I remember when I had done all sorts of things with all this network marketing years ago, and I was tired of it. Someone told me about trading. Oh, person said, why don't you go learn the skill? Before the moment I heard Forex, I'm like, no, this is not for me. I had an impression, like other people did, that oh, it's gambling. But then I
Hmm.
realized that it required technical analysis,
Hmm.
understanding the fundamentals, understanding that besides just having, the skill, there are certain things you have to look out for, and also your discipline. So when it
Hmm.
comes to the psychology aspect of trading, I believe that it is more of the psychology than the skill
Hmm.
itself, because it is possible to have a strategy that works well. You
Hmm.
understand the market, but your psychology has to be right to trade. I like the fact that
True.
you said you made a lot of money in December, then you came back to trade again in March. It has to be psychology because if you are busy trying to sort out things in your personal life, you're building a family, or you know that there are certain things happening for you, that will affect your psychology. Maybe it's probably a good time to just stay off the chat. I've gone through cycles of that and then came back and realized that, well, the skill is still there. I just needed my psychology to be right to excel in it.
Mm.
So I have another question. You have helped build communities and you've done several partnerships. How important is community when building trading mastery?
Mm. That's a very that's a very interesting question. It's very it's a very critical aspect because um, trading can be a very lonely path if
Mhm,
you're diving into it yourself.
mhm.
You can, and I've heard of stories of, in fact, not just, in fact, close to me. I've had people who would just call me and say, I saw this advert on Facebook or Instagram, and they advertised that just fund with $10, and the next day it's $500, and they just go ahead to register the app, register online, and they're just calling me to tell me that they just funded. That what should they do? I'm like, I don't understand. Have you traded before? All of that. So um I think it can really be a lonely path because uh, if you're not being guided without support, you can actually burn out.
Mhm.
Because you find yourself making the same mistakes repeatedly, which is why the place of mentorship. My wife is always saying, I talk so much about mentor, 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 mentor. So every time we're seeing a movie or she's seeing a movie somewhere else, and she just sees a young person say mentor, mentor, she's just like, that's one thing that I'm always saying. I'm like, it's very important. It's very, very crucial. And, because I understand what it takes to, get burnt out over and over and over, making the same mistake. And sometimes you just need that person that says, do it this way, and that's all it is. So a strong community, like when like we said earlier, the nights where we'll be online, you know we'll be online, having those meetings together. You were heavily pregnant then. I
Yes.
will still be having the calls, with the other guy. I can't remember his name.
I think it was
you know
Lando.
yeah, Lando,
Yes.
exactly.
I wonder if Lando is watching us right now.
I will have those calls back to back, back to back again. And interestingly, how you could do it that in the morning you're back again when
Yes.
you should be sleeping.
Yes.
I'll be
Quite
like,
addictive. Quite addictive. That's the thing.
yeah, exactly. So a strong community actually provides accountability, perspective,
Mhm.
encouragement. I think some of the things we're doing to ourselves then was encouraging, each other, to grow, inspire each other, most especially during drawdowns. I remember one of those times, I think it was you, Orlando, we're taking a trade on GU. I think we took a buy, and then the last one went, just
Out.
against us. I remember how you were so furious, and you're like, no, no, I couldn't have taken it. But just that community of like minds talking and encouraging ourselves. So I think the community, is very, very important, and provides accountability,
Yes.
perspective, encouragement, inspiration, especially during the drawdowns,
Yes.
very, very important, very, very important,
People don't like
yeah.
seeing drawdowns, but it's part of the game.
Yeah, true.
I've seen people that when they take trades, say they were on plus $50 and suddenly it's gone to minus 30. They're like, oh, what is going on with my chart?
What do I
And
do?
then,
What do I
it is part of the game. I
do?
think psychology is key when it comes to learning how to trade.
Mm,
Do not put in more than you can afford to lose. That is one of the things
mm,
I tell people. If
mm,
you put in a trade and you have set your stop loss, that is, you should be ready to lose that amount if it goes south.
mm,
But the problem that most people have, Some people trade without stop losses. I still trade with my stop loss regardless. I'm like, this is what I want to do. If I'm putting in this trade, this is what I expect to lose if it does not go my way.
mm,
That's the thing. People tell themselves, well, it will come back. And then before you know it, the account is actually dipping and dipping
mm.
further, and then they lose the
Sure,
account. I cannot
sure.
remember the last time I haven't had to to lose an account in years
Mm,
because I'm like, lose an account. How? Because I
mm,
already know that this is what I have in that account, and this is what I want to trade, and this is what I'm willing to risk. So it
mm,
is okay to take a break and say, well, maybe I am over trading because over trading is another problem. People
mm,
would have had so much wins and then they get too addicted. They keep taking the trades and then it starts going against them. That is
mm,
where I feel that people need to work. They have to work on
mm.
that. So that brings me to
Sure.
my next question. So
Mm.
if somebody is watching right now and is feeling stuck in their trading, what is one action you would tell them to take this week that could shift their trading game?
I would say, um, I'll say basically, that um, when you're stuck financially, what you actually need is knowledge.
Okay.
You know, delving into a passage of scripture
Mhm,
permits me to say, you say,
mhm.
as a man thinks,
So easy.
he so is he. So um, it's something that always like guides me, every now and then. So when I'm seeing certain outcomes in my life, I'm probing, the deepest of my thoughts, my desires, you know, my thoughts basically. Am I thinking this way? So I think when you're stuck financially, when someone is stuck financially, I think um it's it's important for them to to take a break, to take some time out to reflect, basically. Take some time out to reflect and try to understand how important it is to, track your progress, track
Mhm,
your, try to probe the understanding that you have, because I understand that it's very, very important that, learning a skill, most especially trading, can go a long way to help you, break out from those kinds of situations. So, the first thing that, for someone who is in that position, I think it's good that you're aware.
mhm.
It's good that you're aware that you're in this situation, but awareness is not just enough. You also have to get knowledge. Like we just previously said, talked about mentorship, how it's important. That's why, as much as um, a lot of people want to do things personally, I also feel that it's important you're giving when you have certain skill sets that are very, very sophisticated, and very technical, like trading, and are difficult, to understand. And, you know, over time, you've been able to build mastery. I feel like it's very important that you put yourself out, because a lot of people are still getting it wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still missing it out. So, but I think when people still show up and, put themselves out and let people know that I can do this thing and I can help you come out from this situation. I
Mhm.
think we still need those voices, coming out, which is why I don't feel bad or guilty for doing what I do, for showing up, for coming
Yes.
online,
Mhm.
posting as many posts as I want, because
Yes.
there are still thousands of people that are still bankrupt of this information. So
Absolutely.
so people need to know how. So I think the small action could be, now that you're aware, take the necessary step, try to understand where you are, try to find the missing link, what you need, what's necessary for you to make progress from where you are to the next place. First, sometimes you don't even need to jump into the skill set. You just need to understand the kind of vehicle that you need at that point in time, before jumping into the street. So you just need knowledge. you need knowledge, very, very important. So I think uh, once knowledge is in place, every other thing can, be
Happen, yeah.
aligned itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I believe that is really really great. Thank you for those tips because everybody has to have a trading plan. But when
Mm,
you take trading like if you take it like a career, it's going to pay you like a career. We know
mm,
that people, take trading as a hobby. We feel like it's a hobby. That's fine, but take it as a career first so that it can pay you like your career will
mm,
pay you and even much more. Because when somebody comes to the market unprepared, the market is also preparing to grab money from you, anyways. So
mm,
if you get there
mm.
unprepared,
Very
he
true.
could grab money from you and all of that. So
True.
this is good. So another question for you is your setup. That is, what does a typical trading day look like for you, and how do you stay disciplined in volatile markets?
Mm. That's quite an interesting one. So I think what it is basically, my day starts with, um basically scanning the market. Of course,
Okay.
I have my watch list of the number of assets that I want to trade.
Okay.
So my day start with scanning the market and as well as checking the fundamentals, the news that are
Mhm.
going to, be put out for that week. So when I have that set dealt with, I move into, looking at the market with the most potential move, you know, and then start to plot my key levels, just basically trying to prep my watch list, you know, have my key levels, my monthly levels, weekly levels, scale down to daily, 4 hours, check the structures, and, try to see, which has the most, um, which of them has the closest to looking like my setup
Mhm.
or more like my A plus setup. That's what I'll say. The one that has the closest, resemblance of what my A plus setup is. I focus on that. And if none of that is, aligning or playing out, I think I'll just, call
Just
it
leave
a
it.
day.
Just call it a day.
Yeah, definitely.
Just call
So
it
I
a day.
just write it on my journal and let it be. So and when of course, it's very important to check the fundamentals, the news, because um, sometimes you see that fundamentals actually come to confirm your technicals. Um, so I'm not actually scared of going or entering a trade if there is a fundamental or maybe a high impact news. Um, because I've seen that over time it actually comes to confirm your structure if there is proper understanding. But at the same time, it's also important to apply risk management at those times. So you don't want to go big, or take too much risk at those times. So it's all those things are things that I'll document in the process of prepping for my routine. So first, I just come scan the market, scan the news, check which news is more important to or is going to be very sensitive to the market that I want to trade, and check out for the setups. The one that has the most resemblance to what I want to see, and then take those trades. That's it, basically.
That makes a
Win
lot of
and
sense. Yeah.
repeat. Yeah.
Every trader has had a big win or a tough
Mm,
lesson. So, what is the
mm.
most memorable trade you've ever made, whether it was a big win or a tough lesson? Okay, do you want to share it with us?
I think, I think a big lesson for me will be overconfidence. I think every trader goes through all of these emotions. I think for me, one of the biggest lessons will be um, having consecutive wins over a good setting, like a good amount of time, like consecutive wins in maybe 4 months at a stretch, and then just when I'll say I need to increase my risks or my lot sizes. And I knew that trade was going to give me 100K profit. I knew. I thought with the lot size. Now every other trade was just, a good lot size, a good standard lot giving me, the kind of profit I want. But I'd done all the mathematics and I knew that if I took that trade and it went in my direction, I was going to get 100K. And boom, it just went against me. It was a crazy,
It's a,
crazy,
a tough lesson.
it was a tough, like it broke me down.
So
It
could it
broke
have
me down.
because there was news, or it was that you had maybe was it
Okay.
confidence or news, or there was something that just went sideways?
Okay, so basically, when I think of it now, if I had um doubled down my risks,
That's the thing, risk management.
yes, I wouldn't have been in that situation. That's one. And then I that particular setup did not meet all of my criteria.
Wow.
So out of seven things that I expected, it only met five.
And you still went ahead.
So I still went ahead. That's why I think overconfidence. Yeah, it was, I was going to like, I couldn't just wait for that moment and just go and scream, and shout that everybody come and see. You
Oh my,
know, it
I know.
was, because I had consecutive wins. So my confidence was so, you know, so grown that I knew that this next trade was going to be 100K,
Yeah.
but it did not meet all my criteria. So it taught me humility, and, it also reinforced, the importance of sticking to, my trading plan.
Mhm.
And, so every now and then when I'm about to take a trade, I just look up because right behind, my screen, I have some of those rules and
Mhm.
stuff. So when I'm about to just click, I look up again and say, okay, one, two, three, it's six. Okay, let me take the trade now. So it this experiences, always reinforces, discipline and humility. So and that's one big lesson that
Big lesson.
you
And it's
know.
good. It's good that students hear this because
Hmm,
sometimes, I've mentored a lot of students over the past few years, and I realized that this thing called trading is still not for everybody. A lot of
hmm,
people still think that it is something that will give them overnight success. But if you want that kind of success, what level of discipline are you willing to
hmm,
give when it comes to the entire,
hmm,
trading industry? And
hmm,
one of the things I've learned personally is that if you're not disciplined, you cannot excel in trading. You know the way I always have my criteria. I even do my slides. I'll do my PowerPoint and say, this is my
hmm.
criteria.
Yeah.
So I still do that. They know me. If I don't see it, guess what?
Hmm,
Even if it, you see, when I have my criteria and I see a setup that does not meet my entire checklist,
hmm,
even if it goes in the direction that I would have assumed it to go, I still will not take that trade because I'm like, there's something they call bonus trades. There are trades I just give to the broker. I'm like, that trade is for the broker. I just give them. I call it bonus
hmm.
trade because you know what? This trade is for the broker. Somebody will just say, but it went that way. I said, good luck. I have my what? Trading plan. I have my strategy. Because
Hmm,
your money is better preserved in your account than you
hmm,
clicking on a trade with a lot size and it goes against you. I'll tell you one of my craziest experiences when I started trading volatility indices at the beginning. It was actually a student that told me about it. I was trading Forex and all of that. The person said, why don't you try Volat VIX? I'm like, what's that? So I got really curious and I said, let me do VIX. I didn't even know about the lot size of V75, volatility 75. So I had put in a zero point 0.5 lot size on a $6,000 account. And the fourth drawdown was minus 4,000.
hmm.
Or minus 4,000.
Wow.
The way
Wow.
I closed that trade at a loss and I left VIX for 3 months. I said,
mm,
no, this must be some witchcraft kind of pair. What kind of pair is this one? Like,
mm,
first of all, my lot size was wrong. It was wrong.
mm,
It's 4.5 on a
mm,
6K account. It was a massive.
mm,
The funny part is that that trade still went my way.
mm,
It still went my way. But the problem was that I had no knowledge of that particular pair. I didn't understand the
mm.
behavior. I didn't
True.
understand the appropriate lot size and the right
Exactly.
strategy. But guess what? There were other nuances that I should have paid attention to that I did not pay
Mm,
attention to. Of
mm,
course, I learned my lesson, right? But came
mm,
back to the drawing board and started trying to study about volatility 75.
mm,
You see my point? So the truth is, no matter how wonderful you are with your strategy, I have my trading system. You know, I already created my trading system.
true.
I've stuck to that system for years, but just it has evolved over the years. I still use my semaphores. You know me. I have
Oh, nice.
I still use my semaphores so that I understand the dynamics of semaphores. So that same trading system, if you look at the structure, it's still the skeletal framework. What have I done over time? It has evolved. I have a dashboard that actually helps me to tell. It tells me, okay, these are the pairs I'm going to trade because the dashboard already tells you, like, it will list, like, I could probably put, like, say 10 pairs there, and then it tells me which pair is ready for. It's like saying that's my watch list dashboard. It tells me, okay,
Mm,
this is the pair that is ready to go on this trend dual of this day.
mm,
So I still feel like it is important for people to fine tune their strategy, not hopping from one strategy to another. Because that was a challenge that I had. Because I remember being in an academy at the beginning of my trading journey, and they had all sorts of scanners, they had all sorts of
mm.
strategies, and then one
Exactly.
will come teach you this one about aqua line. Another one will tell you scanner. Oh my!
Yeah.
At the point, I had to just stop.
Mm,
Then I started studying the market myself. I was taking down notes. I still think that it takes a few years
mm.
of focus to really master trading.
True. It does. It does. Truly.
That's the simple truth. It's still like it takes a few years, but the moment you learn it, it's like learning how to drive. Once you know how to
Mm.
drive, can somebody take away that skill from you? It's a skill you
Nah.
learning how to drive.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Mhm.
It comes to you naturally. That's why even if I take a break, because I went through a very intense life-changing situation in the past year or two, and even when I took breaks in between, I came back to my trading and I said, once a trader, always a trader in that sense,
Okay,
because it's
true.
part of me. And
Mm,
no matter what I do several things. But my schedule has been so interesting. Today, I've found myself training people in clinical research. I've had to talk to a few people in my digital consulting, and I've come back to this. What does that tell you? Everybody has to learn a skill that is beyond the 9 to 5.
mm. True.
And so I think I want you to give people your word of encouragement for those that are just talk to their careers and say, well, I don't do any other thing. I'm a doctor. Guess what? I have doctors in my trading community.
Mm,
I have people who are doing so well in their career and they're still in the community. What does that tell you?
mm,
You need a skill. It's a
mm,
high income skill that you need to learn that you will not, they
mm,
won't teach you that in the university.
mm,
Everybody needs that skill that is beyond that 9 to 5. So I want you to, for those that are interested in learning how to trade with us in Squeeze Bounce, I want to hear what you have to say to encourage them, because some people are just like, I think it is this. It is possible to learn the skill, even though it's not for everybody, but it will pay you for the rest of your life. That's why
mm,
you can take 2 months of a break and come back and still make thousands of dollars.
mhm.
So go ahead and, would like to hear you give people those insights on, how to navigate their 9 to 5, yes, but then learning a
Mm,
skill like trading that could change their lives.
mm. Amazing. Um, so to be honest, I think at every given time, um, what everyone is trying to achieve is actually um, to earn more, to cut losses as
Mhm.
much as possible. Doesn't have to be trading, but whatever field you're in, you're trying to cut losses. It could be mistakes at work, it could be, but I know that generally, a lot of people are actually trying to earn more, cut costs, and invest better. And I remember someone said one time that um, imagine all the amount of money you need to make in 60 years, in 60 years, someone gives you that amount of money, like just imagine from your current, work experience or what you're currently doing.
I think we lost Sammy there. Uh, I think Sammy, we lost you for a sec. I'm gonna see if I could try to bring Sammy back really quickly. Okay, we lost you for a
Can you
sec.
still hear me?
Yes, yes, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I don't know why I can't hear you.
Um, I can actually hear you. Let me see. I can actually hear you.
I don't know what's going on, but
But you know the funny part,
I
we can
can
actually
hear you.
let me send you a message. I think I can hear you. I can hear you actually. Maybe you want to get out of the room and get back in.
Oh,
Let me
I can hear you now.
check. Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah. So, this person actually was creating an analogy, and he said, just multiply what you're currently earning annually
Mm-hmm.
times 60 years. Do that calculation for 60 years, and imagine that someone gave you that entire amount of money at at your current state and say, take.
Oh my goodness.
He now asked the question. He said, are you really, really going to be interested in what you're doing at the moment? He said, a lot of people will just realize that what they are passionate about is playing a keyboard. A lot of people will just realize that what they're really passionate about is, just eating. A lot of people realize that what they're passionate about is just going to the cinema. A lot of people just realize so many things about themselves. But when he said that thing, something just struck, a chord, and I was like, you know, if you can actually have a skill set that can actually do that for you, because I believe today that trading is the eighth wonder of the world. They say there are seven wonders, but I believe trading is the eighth because when you can, when you have that skill set, you have it for life. And one of the benefits or one of the things that makes it still stands out is because of the fact that it's easily accessible. And then we are this, I don't think there is any other skill set or any businesses, in the world that can give you so much leverage like trading, where you can afford to take $100 literally and scale it to as much as $1 million. That's outrageous, you know, and that's something you can do legally, and that's something you can do at the comfort of your home. You don't need all day to do it, but you know, you need a good amount of understanding to be able to have some level of success. And just like I said earlier, what everybody or most people are actually trying to achieve is to be able to cut cost, you know earn more and invest better. I think that's one thing that trading, you know can actually give you for free.
Yeah.
For free. You have to take some time to learn it. You have to, it's about the kind of life you want to live. It's about the sacrifices you're ready to, to make to be able to achieve those goals. Like you just said, some minutes ago, you had just, wrapped up with a clinical, meeting. And then, you're back here, finished speaking to some people, and then you're here again. That's passion, that's passion. So you're putting all these sacrifices to be able to achieve the goals you want to achieve. And I think that's, you know that's very, very important, so it's about the kind of life you want to live, and being able to make those sacrifices that you know you can actually take to get you those desired outcomes. So
And
I think,
that is really absolutely great. And I want to just thank you. I know we've taken an hour.
yeah.
Funny enough, because this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, our spotlight sessions were usually 30 minutes. But when it comes to trading, you and I could go on and on and on. But I want to just say a big thank you. Thank you so much for taking
Course.
time to jump on my life. I know you are far away in the UK, and I thank you
Yeah.
for creating time to connect. And I want to say to everybody listening out there, if you want to take trading as a journey, like a serious, career and hobby, and you want to be profitable, that way, we offer that. So you could just go to squeezebounce.com, check our website, and feel free to connect.
Mm,
Feel free to, enroll. And of course, we'll be happy to get you on track. Like Sammy had said, it is not a fly by night success, but it is a skill that if you learn it, it
mm,
can pay you for the rest of your life. It can
mm,
help you recover 10 years of working a 9 to 5 in even a month or a few months,
mm.
because you learned a skill. So thank you
True.
so much. And I'll be back again tomorrow for day 18 of the Bounce Beyond Limits series. And thank
Awesome.
you, Sammy. You are awesome. And say hi to your wife.
I will thank you for having me.
No worries.
Really.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Yeah.
Yes.